Hi learners, I am Dr. M.D. Azimuddin Sheikh, Assistant Professor with Department of Library and Information Science, Vidyasagar University. Today I am going to start our topic, Model of Information Communication. Before going to start or understand models of communication, we have to understand the concept of communication. The word communication has a long and fascinating history. Since the earlier days of human existence, the need to share thoughts, ideas, and feelings has been a natural part of human being. The successful survival of mankind was due to their ability to communicate. In ancient times, people used various methods to communicate. They relied on symbols, gestures, drawings, and sign language to share information. Archaeological evidence shows that the early men were good artists and have been effectively communicating through the visual sense. They also use sound and body movements to convey messages, making communication possible even without words. Through the year, communication has advanced with the development of technology. Today, it has become an essential part of our life, connecting people across the world in a way that early humans could not never imagined. This shows how important communication is, not just for survival but also for progress and connection in our modern world. The word communication is derived from the Latin word communicare, which means to share or to make common. It reflects the process of sharing information, ideas, or feeling with others to establish understanding and connection. This origin highlights the primary purpose of communication, bringing people together through the exchange of a message. So, what is communication? Communication is a two-way process for reaching mutual understanding in which participants not only exchange ideas, feelings, and information but also create and share meaning. It is the exchange of thoughts, message, or the like by speech, signals, or writing. It is the express oneself in such a way that one readily and clearly understood. It is a process of conveying information from the sender to the receiver with the use of media in which the communicated information is understood. On the other hand, Columbia Encyclopedia defines communication as the transfer of thoughts and message as concerned with transportation of goods and persons. Conrad and Pole says that communication is the process by which people interactively create, sustain, and manage meaning. It is also a process of passing information, ideas, facts, and opinion for two or more parties. It is the process by which an idea is brought to another's perception. The information that is so expressed and exchanged is also referred to as communication. It is a complex and dynamic process that allows organisms to exchange information by several methods. Now we have to know about components of communication. Communication comprises of 8 major components which make the object of study of the communication theory. They are so integral and interdependent that they are considered as basic element of any communication process. They include source. Source is that which produce a message or sequence of messages to be communicated to the receiving terminal. Another one is sender. Sender refers to transmitter which operates on a message in some way to produce a signal suitable for transmission over the channel. Next one is channel. Channel is merely the medium used to transmit the signal from transmitter to receiver. Receiver performs the inverse operation of that done by the transmitter, reconstructing the message from the signal. Another one is destination. Destination is the person from whom the message is intended. Next one is message. Message is derived from Latin word mittere, meaning to send. It refers to a concept, information, communication, or statement that is sent in a oral, graphic, written, audiovisual form of the recipient. Next one is feedback. Feedback is the loop of making a two-way communication process related to the response to the message. Feedback is the loop of making a two-way communication process related to the response to the message. It is simply the reaction of the destination back to the source, direct and or indirect. Last one is context. Context is considered as a very significant component as it decides the given communication process and fixes all the above said 7 components. Last one is context. Context is considered as a very significant component as it decides the given communication process and fixes all the above said 7 components. It refers to the background and the environment. Immediate and far. Space and time play a larger role of a given communication. A good communication means different things to different people at different time. We need to know about the channels of communication. Basically, there are 2 ways of communication. One is oral communication. Oral communication is a method of communication through speech. It is characteristic of its immediacy and personal touch, which might be difficult to capture in other form of communication. In this form, there is often an informal and flexible setting, which allows to sender and receiver interact with questions and answer, comments and response. All this takes place in a given time and result in immediate feedback and permits an instant reaction. Second one is written communication. Some basic characteristics of written communication are that some basic characteristics of written communication are that it has a more formal perspective, suggesting greater authority and trustworthiness. Can be a potential record capable of extended life and of being used again and again. Can be extracted in part or portion and can be quoted. It is suitable for reading at an individual's convenience. It is suitable for reading at individual convenience, speed and place, and is accessible to a large readership, which can be lead to the benefit of expert criticism and review of peers. Is accessible to a large readership, which can lead to the benefit of expert criticism and review by peers. Now, classification of communication. A human communication may be broadly classified as interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication is a communicator's internal use of language or thoughts. It can be useful to envision intrapersonal communication. Now, classification of communication. Human communication may be broadly classified as intrapersonal communication. Intrapersonal communication is a communicator's internal use of language or thoughts. It can be useful to envision intrapersonal communication occurring in the mind of the individual in a model which contains a sender, receiver, and feedback loop. Next one is interpersonal communication. Interpersonal communication is an exchange of information between two or more people. Interpersonal communication is the process by which people exchange information, feeling, and meaning through verbal and nonverbal messages. Another one is group dynamics. Group dynamics is a system of behavior and psychological process occurring within a social group or between social groups. Mass communication. Mass communication is the process by which a person, group of people, or large organization creates a message and transmit it through some types of media to a large, anonymous, heterogeneous audience. Next one is organizational communication. Organizational communication is a subfield of the large discipline of communication studies. Organizational communication as a field is the consideration, analysis, and criticism of the role of communication in organizational context. Cross-cultural communication. Cross-cultural communication is a field of study that look at how people from different cultural background communicate among themselves and how they endeavor to communicate across cultures. Any of the above, depending on the choice of the medium, may be classified further as verbal, nonverbal, bodily, and graphic communication. Verbal communication. Verbal communication is sharing of information between individuals using speech that employs a natural language like English and readily understood spoken words, as well as ensuring enunciation, stress, and tone with which the words are expressed appropriately and understood correctly. Bodily communication. Bodily communication refers to various forms of nonverbal communication, wherein a person may reveal clues as to some unspoken intention or feeling through their physical behavior. Another one or last one is graphic communication. Graphic communication uses graphic elements. These elements includes symbols such as glyphs and icons, images such as drawings and photographs, and can include the passive attribution of substract, color, or surroundings. Now, we need to know about communication theories. There are some important communication theories which are as follows. First one is rhetorical theory. Rhetorical theory is said to have begun on the island of Sicily when a dictator was overthrown, leaving former and current landowners to argue in court over who rightfully owned the land. The original owner or those who had been given the land during the tyrant regime. Corax can be credited with the first formal rhetorical theory. He wrote a treatise called The Art of Rhetorical. Corax can be credited with the first formal rhetorical theory. He wrote a treatise called The Art of Rhetoric to assist those involved in the land disputes. In his treatise, he highlighted the importance probability of rhetoric, a speaker should argue from general probabilities or create a probable connection or basis for belief when actual facts can be established. Corax can be credited with the first formal rhetorical theory. He wrote a treatise called The Art of Rhetoric to assist those who involved in the land disputes. In his treatise, he highlighted the importance of probability to rhetoric. A speaker should argue from general probabilities to create a probable connection or basis for belief when actual facts can be established. Rhetorical theory is no longer confined to the public domain of classical Greece and address all context in which symbol use occurs. This means studying everything from interpersonal to intrapersonal to public discourse to social movement and mediated discourse, including study of visual and non-verbal elements such as the study of art and architecture, buildings and all design elements of cities, and dress and appearance to sports, to namely only a few. Rhetorical theory is no longer confined to the public domain of classical Greece and address all context in which symbol use occurs. This means studying everything from interpersonal to intrapersonal to public discourse to social movement and mediated discourse, including study of visual and nonverbal elements such as the study of art and architecture, building and all design elements of cities, and dress and appearance to sports, to name only a few. Next one is semiotic theory. The term semiotic came from Greek language and was introduced into the English language by John Locke in 1690 as a synonym for doctrine of sign. Research into sign system began with the ancient Greeks. In the modern world, the major area which have been the object of semiotic study of literature, social structures, visual arts, ritual, myths, pedagogy and gesture. Semiotic is the science of communication and sign system, in short, of the way people understood phenomena and organized them mentally, and of the way in which they devise means for transmitting that understanding and for sharing it with others. Next one is phenomenological theory. Phenomenological theorists emphasize that each person actively constructs his or her own world. According to this, the specific way each person perceives and interprets the world make up one's personality and guide one's own behavior. Carl Rogers' self-theory emphasized self-actualization, which he described as the innate tendency towards growth and motivates all human behavior. Abraham Maslow, humanist psychologist, believed that self-actualization is not just a human capacity but a human need. Maslow argued that there was a hierarchy of need that all humans have, and beginning at the bottom of the hierarchy, each need in the hierarchy must be satisfied before one can move to the next level in the hierarchy. Phenomenological theory are an optimist approach that places faith in a person's ability to fulfill his or her ultimate capabilities. Phenomenological theories are an optimist approach that places faith in a person's ability to fulfill his or her ultimate capabilities. Criticize view the phenomenological approach. Critics view the phenomenological approach as naive, romantic, and idealistic. They are also critical of the lack of emphasis on the importance of inherited characteristics, biological processes, learning, situational influences, and unconscious motivation in shaping personality. Next one is cybernetic theory. In 1948, Norbert Wiener coined the term cybernetics to elaborate on the existing theory of transmission of message by incorporating his idea that people send message within a system in an effort to control their surrounding environment. The basic function of communication, according to Wiener, is to control the behavior in which one lives. This idea suggests that the goal of human communication is to become familiar with a certain environment while simultaneously influences aspects of it. With this, Wiener asserts that the purpose of cybernetics is to develop a language and techniques that will enable us indeed to attack the problem of control and communication in general, but also to find the proper repertory of idea and techniques to classify their particular manifestation under the concept. Find the proper repertory of idea and techniques to classify their particular manifestations under certain concept. Wiener introduced the idea of entropy and feedback in his theory. Another one is socio-psychological theory. Socio-psychology is a branch of psychology that studies individual in the social context, offering insights into the individual and society. One of the major currents of theory in this area sparing from the work since 1894 by philosopher and sociologist George Herbert Mead at the University of Chicago. Mead's colleague and disciple at Chicago, sociologist Herbert Blumer, coined the name from the framework in 1937. Social exchange theory emphasized that social action is the result of personal choice made to maximize benefits and minimize cost. Social exchange theory emphasized that social action is the result of personal choice made to maximize benefits and minimize cost. A key component of this theory is the postulation of comparison level of alternatives, which is the actor's scene of the best possible alternative. However, social exchange theory differs from economic theory by making predictions about the relationship between person and not just the evaluation of goods. Next one is socio-cultural theory. Socio-cultural theory grew from the work of Lev Vygotsky, who believed that parents, caregivers, peers, and the culture at large are responsible for the development of higher order functions. According to the Vygotsky, every function in the child's cultural development appears twice. First, on the social level and later on the individual level. First, between people and then inside the child. First, between people, interpsychological, and then inside the child's intrapsychological. As his work became more widely published, his ideas have grown increasingly influential in area including child development, cognitive psychology, and education. Socio-cultural theory focus not only on how adults and peers influences individual learning, but also on how cultural beliefs and attitudes impact how instruction and learning takes place. An important concept in sociocultural theory known as zone of proximal development. The distance between the actual development level as determined by independent problem solving and the level of potential development as determined through problem solving under adult guidance or in collaboration with more capable peers. Essentially, it includes all the knowledge and skill that a person cannot yet understood or perform on their own yet, but is capable of learning with guidance. Next and last theory is critical theory. Critical theory was first defined by Max Horkheimer of the Frankfurt School of Sociology in his 1937 essay Traditional and Critical Theory. Critical theory is a social theory oriented toward critiquing and changing society as a whole. Critical theory is a social theory oriented toward critique and changing society as a whole. In contrast to traditional theory oriented only to understand or explaining it. Horkheimer wanted to distinguish critical theory as a radical form of Marxian theory. Horkheimer wanted to distinguish critical theory as a radical form of Marxian theory. The core concept or the critical social theory should be directed at the totality of society in its historical specificity. That is, how it came to be configured at a specific point in time, and improve understanding of society by integrating all the major social science including geography, economics, sociology, history, political science, anthropology, and psychology. At the same time, critical theory also always involves questioning and challenging the passive acceptance that the way things are or the way things seem. At the same time, critical theory also always involves questioning and challenging the passive acceptance that the way things are or the way things seem simply is the natural way. Critical theory is always particularly concerned with inquiring into the problems and limitations, the mistakes, the contradiction and incoherence, the injustice and inquiries in how human beings operate with particular kinds of structure. Critical theory is always particularly concerned with inquiring into the problem and limitations, the mistakes, the contradictions and incoherence, the injustice and inequities in how human being operates with particular kinds of structure and hierarchies of relations with each others, facilitated and regulated by particular kinds of instructions. Types of communication models. Communication models can be classified into three main types. They are linear communication models. Linear models view communication as a one-way process where the sender transmits a message to the receiver without expecting an immediate response. Mass communication such as television and radio broadcasting television and radio broadcasting, or public speeches falls under this category, such as Aristotle's model, Shannon-Weaver model, Lasswell model, Gardner's model, etc. Next one is interactive communication model. Interactive model considered communication as a two-way process where feedback is an essential component. These models recognize that the receiver plays an active role in interpreting and responding to the message, making the communication process more dynamic. These interactive models emphasize the role of feedback, mutual understanding, and relational dynamics in communication, recognizing the complexity and reciprocal nature of the communication process. Recognizing the complexity and reciprocal nature of the communication process. The relational dynamics refers to the way communication shapes, influences, and is influenced by the relationship between the communicators. As for example, Osgood and Swayam circular model, Relay sociological model, Westley and MacLean's model, convergence model of communication falls under this category. Last one is transactional communication model. Transactional models view communication as a complex, ongoing process where all parties are simultaneously senders and receivers. Where all parties are simultaneously senders and receivers, continuously influencing each other. This model emphasizes the context of communication, including the physical, social, and cultural environment. Key examples includes Barnold's transactional model and Dance's helical model.
In conclusion, we can say that the study of information communication models plays a vital role in understanding how messages are transmitted, processed, and interpreted. This model provides a systematic approach to analyzing the communication process, helping us identify factors that influence effective information exchange. By exploring different models, we can gain deeper insight into how communication works in various contexts, such as interpersonal conversation, organizational settings, media, and digital communication. Earlier linear model depicts communication as a straightforward one-way process where a sender transmits a message to a receiver through a channel, often affected by noise. While this model is useful for understanding the basics of message transmission, it does not account for feedback or interaction, which are crucial in real-world communication. Interactive models introduce the concept of feedback, making communication a two-way process. This approach recognizes that both the sender and receiver actively contribute to the interpretation of the message, making it more effective in scenarios like face-to-face conversation and digital interaction. Transactional models go even further by emphasizing that communication is a continuous, dynamic process where both the parties simultaneously send and receive messages. These models acknowledge the influence of external factors such as cultural background, emotions, and social context, which shape how messages are perceived and understood. In today's digital and globalized world, where communication happens across multiple platforms and cultures, understanding this model helps in improving clarity, reducing misunderstandings, and emphasizing the effectiveness of information exchange. Where in business, education, healthcare, or social media, applying these models allows individuals and organizations to communicate more efficiently and build strong connections. By studying and applying these communication models, we can develop better strategies for effective messaging, overcome communication barriers, and ensure that information is conveyed accurately. This knowledge ultimately leads to improved decision making, strong relationship, and a more informed society. Here are some important questions from this section. Some of the multiple choice questions are: 1. Which of the following is the primary purpose of a communication model? Option A, to restrict communication. Option B, to simplify and explain the communication process. Option C, to eliminate feedback in communication. Option D, to increase noise in the messages. Answer is option B, to simplify and explain the communication processes. Question 2. Which model of communication is known as the mathematical models? Option A, Laswell's model. Option B, Serram's model. Option C, Shannon and Weaver model. Option D, Barlund's model. Answer is option C, Shannon and Weaver model. Question 3. Which model is often presented as a one-way flow of communication? Option A, Sirram's model. Option B, transactional model. Option C, Shannon and Weaver model. Option D, Barlund's model. Answer is option C, Shannon and Weaver model. Question 4. Which element is not a part of Shannon and Weaver's communication model? Option A, sender. Option B, channel. Option C, feedback. Option D, noise. Answer is option C, feedback. Question 5. Which of the following is not considered a key component of the communication process? Option A, sender. Option B, message. Option C, channel. Option D, color. Answer is option D, color. Question 6. In Aristotle's model of communication, which element is primarily responsible for delivering the speech? Option A, audience. Option B, speaker. Option C, occasion. Option D, effect. Answer is option B, speaker. Question 7. In the Shannon and Weaver model, what term is used to describe any interference that distorts the message during transmission? Option A, feedback. Option B, noise. Option C, channel. Option D, encoding. Answer is option B, noise. Question 8. In communication theory, what is the primary function of feedback? Option A, to introduce noise into the communication process. Option B, to confirm the receiver has understood the message. Option C, to encode the initial message. Option D, to select the appropriate communication channel. Answer is option B, to confirm the receiver has understood the message. Question 9. Which of the following is an example of non-verbal communication? Option A, written email. Option B, telephone conversation. Option C, facial expressions. Option D, radio broadcast. Answer is option C, facial expressions. Question 10. Which communication model emphasizes the dynamic and continuous nature of communication, often represented as a spiral? Option A, linear model. Option B, interactive model. Option C, transactional model. Option D, helical model. Answer is option D, helical model. Here are also some short answer questions, and these are: 1. What do you mean by communication? 2. Name the 5 elements in general communication model. 3. What is oral communication? 4. Identify different types of communication with the help of suitable example. 5. Describe the term communication theory. 6. What is phenomenological theory? 7. What is linear communication model?
Thank you all.